Weird. See this giant arch on the dorsum of the foot that is a vein? I guarantee that's the dorsal venous arch. See all these other things that form a network here? You have a dorsal venous network. So if you see me label this, that's the right dorsal venous arch. You see a bunch of little labels all over this stuff? Right dorsal venous network. There's a lot of writing for this next quiz. What else do we got? Okay. See this vein that sits on the posterior of the tibia? Seriously, this one.
Deep
right?
in?
It's in. Kind of go with the concept, if I ask a vein that's on the back of the tibia, it's going to be the posterior tibial vein. How's that?
Yeah.
Anterior tibial does not run down. Posterior tibial,
Sorry.
seriously? Posterior tibial runs the length of the tibia and stays close to the tibia. Anterior tibial, in most people, crosses over the tibia. Starts lateral, crosses over, and ends medial. I generally will ask it where it's crossing over. What shows that? Crossing over. The fake. Okay, so your popliteal fossa is behind your knee. So dead center behind your knee, relatively deep, is a vein. That is your popliteal vein or popliteal vein. The artery is next to it, but I will not ask arteries off of this model. You'll just be good with the concept. If you see this leg, you're going to see a vein. What was next? The great saphenous. Great saphenous is the longest, thickest, most straightest.
That doesn't look straight.
I mean, it doesn't branch off.
Oh.
It's relatively goes straight up. That is a great saphenous vein. There's a smaller vein, still runs straight up and down. Eventually, it meets with the great saphenous. I will ask it right before it junctures with the great saphenous vein. That's the small saphenous. 55. It's a law we can live with. Okay, so we're going to start at the top with our sinuses and work our way down. So I've pulled off this guy's skull cap. Pull. Do we see this giant blue vein at the very top of the head, and it runs front to back? That's all your clues. Which one is this?
Sagittal.
It's at the very top.
Superior.
Superior. It runs front to back. Sagittal. That's your superior sagittal sinus. Are we good with this? Now, you have a piece of tissue that comes between your two hemispheres, starts at the top of your skull, goes straight down. It's called the falx cerebri. This is the falx cerebri.
What is it?
This membrane right there.
No, like between the two hemispheres.
Between the two
Okay.
hemispheres of the brain.
Alright. So what was
At the base of your falx cerebri, do we see another vein right by the corpus callosum going backward?
inferior sagittal sinus?
That would be your inferior
Can you do this
sagittal.
one?
Yep. Sinus.
What's one?
I don't know. Somewhere in here? Wait, where's the corpus? Is that the corpus?
Yeah.
There's the corpus. Right there should be a vein as the inferior sagittal sinus. Somewhere right here? Is there a vein there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was right over the
Anybody from Pittsburgh?
cerebellum.
These sinuses, a bunch of the sinuses, have a confluence here. So right here, now that we're into the skull itself, that's the ending of the superior sagittal sinus. Do you see this sinus that comes out transversely to the right, and the one that comes out transversely to the left? Those are your left and right transverse sinuses. Wait, I have a pointer. Right and left transverse sinus. Right and left transverse sinus.
Wait, what must be right?
Right.
The blue one?
Oh, there's fixing me. Comedy.
Yeah.
Right and left.
So the
They're all blue.
inferior sagittal sinus dumps into the transverse sinus?
No, they're all in the same area. Sigmoid. When it is no longer transverse, and it starts to curve, that's where it becomes a sigmoid sinus. Are we good with that?
Yes.
Now at the very bottom, what's that big hole in the base of your skull called? Which is Latin for big hole. I love this stuff. There's two smaller, tinier sinuses that skirt the foramen magnum. Those smaller ones are your occipital.
These right here?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, we're like pen
I know.
buddies.
The signal's dipping.
In the vein, we have two arches. Artery, we have two arches. They communicate with each other. In real life, one is distal and superior. One is proximal and deep. On the model, they are on the same level. So if I do this one that looks like a series of M's or waves, I will do that as a superior palmar or superficial palmar arch. Is that on your list?
Yeah.
The one that's just a straight arch, I will do as the deep palmar arch. Same thing holds true with the artery beneath it. The one most distal will be the superficial palmar arch. The one proximal will be the deep palmar arch. So the only time I'll ask an artery on here is if I'm doing the palmar arch.
What?
This is going to be almost exclusively vein. So if I put an artery here, you'll know it's either the superficial palmar arch or deep palmar arch. That was a long talk for four things. Superior venous arch, superficial, deep, superficial, deep.
The
Superficial palmar arch, deep, superficial, deep.
it goes the same for the veins, right?
Veins and arteries. So the veins, let's come up proximal. You have two veins that are going to come eventually into your armpit. The one closest to your head, what does the word closest to your head mean? Cephalic means closest to the head. This is your cephalic vein. I will only ask it right here where you can tell it is closer to your head. Are we good with this? Just inferior to it, closer to your butt, would be the basilic. It's closer to your base. Cephalic, basilic. That's the only place I'm going to ask that. All of these are basically the same two or three veins. They have a different name according to where they are in your body. So let's come down just a little bit. Right here on the front of your brachium would be the brachial vein. How easy is that? Okay, the one that goes closest to your pinky would be your ulnar. The one closest to your thumb, radial. I will ask it way off on the side where you cannot confuse it for anything else. Is median on your list? Median cubital, but not median all by itself. So on this guy, I have two veins that could qualify as median cubital. That one and that one, because that matches my arm. I have a vein on either side. I could also ask it here a little inferior to the antecubital fossa, because that's what it is on this guy. Any of these, in reality, are fair game as a median cubital vein. So if I ask anything in the front of your arm, just anywhere near the elbow, median cubital, left median cubital vein. Is all I want to ask? Radial, ulnar, median cubital, brachial, basilic, cephalic. Great. That's it for that model. So this giant blood vessel, there's one over there, coming down is the abdominal aorta. What is this big muscle here? That will count as a zygus. See the one on the left? That will count as hemiozygous. Is that right? The zygus is on the right side? Good. That's the model. I lied earlier when I said I won't use that model. Yep. Right side is the zygus, left side is hemizygous. When I am way out here, what does axilla mean?
The armpit.
Armpit. If I am way out here in the armpit, what artery is this? Axillary. Do we see an artery that leaves this and goes straight down into the scapula? That would be
on the other side.
subscapular. It's tiny. It's about 1/4 of an inch long. Ducts right into the scapula. Subscapular. I seldom ask that. It's super easy to identify, but I'm lazy. It's hard to get a label onto that. So if I'm going to ask brachial, is that on your list?
Yeah.
I will generally ask it fat part of the brachium, or you can't confuse it for anything else. Brachial artery. Are we good with that?
Is the yellow vein?
It's a nerve.
Oh.
Do we see this artery by the pinky?
Yep.
What is it? Ulnar. See that artery by the thumb? Pardon? Radial. Is median on your list? In the femoral triangle is the easiest place to find the femoral artery and femoral vein. So that's where I will ask those.
Where?
In the femoral triangle. In here. The blue one being the vein, the red one being the artery. Still a triangle. You see the triangle?
Wow.
Femoral artery, femoral vein in the femoral triangle. Have we all seen that now? Okay. Further down, let's go behind the knee. What's behind the knee?
Whatever that one.
Popliteal, since you started to say popliteal. We already did the vein on the leg model. The artery in the same area would be the popliteal artery, or popliteal, right behind the knee. Following that same artery down, now I'm behind the tibia. What artery would that be?
Posterior tibial artery.
Posterior tibial, because I'm behind the tibia. Yep. If I go in front of the tibia,
Anterior tibial artery.
anterior tibial artery.
The left one.
It is the left one. Do you see this artery that's relatively large between the first and second toe? That is the dorsalis pedis. What's your question?
The yellow is nerve.
Yellow is a nerve.
Dorsalis pedis. Is
Dorsalis pedis.
that the only thing on your foot? In between.
No, it's the only thing we're going to ask. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's in between.
On this model. What's this aortic arch called? Aortic arch. You have three giant arteries coming off of there.
Brachiocephalic, left common carotid, and left subclavian.
We're going to start with the curvy one, since you guys started with the other one. What is this one?
Left
Left
subclavian.
subclavian.
Left subclavian. The most middlest one,
Left common carotid.
left common carotid artery, and then the most
Brachiocephalic.
closest to other stuff. Brachiocephalic trunk.
Trunk.
Artery is fine. You can just actually write brachiocephalic. That'll be plenty for me. They are all on here.